Well, thank you so much, Olivia. I really appreciate it, and I just want to welcome everyone. We're going to take about 20 to 30 minutes today to talk about a new EPA initiative, and we just want to make sure that if your small business is impacted, that you know about it, and that you also know about resources, kind of like SCORE, but resources that can help you get into environmental compliance so that you are prepared if for some reason EPA was to knock on your door or the state. And there's other resources too to help you get grants and different things, but that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. If during my presentation you have any questions, feel free to chat the questions, or at the end we'll have an open mic question and answer. I want to recognize and thank Olivia of SCORE and also my colleague Mary Baker, who is here today and did most of the heavy lifting putting this presentation together. And she will also be responding and putting in some helpful resources in the chat as we go through this. But what we would like to start with is a couple of polls, just so we know who is in the audience. So Olivia, if you want to launch those first three polls, that would be great.
Everyone should be seeing those polls now. It is just one poll, 3 questions. Sorry, that was confusing.
So you have to scroll down after you answer question 1. You'll kind of scroll the right-hand side bar down if you're not already seeing that. Great. Okay, I think we can end that poll.
Awesome. So it looks like, can you see the results, Nancy?
I cannot.
Okay, you're good. I just wanted to make sure. So it looks about 75% of people are small business assistance providers, and 25% are other. 75% of our attendees do not reside in Kansas. 25% of them do. And then, does your operation require environmental permits? 13% say yes, 63% say no, and 25% are unsure.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you launching that poll and sharing the results with us, Olivia. We'll kind of get into it now here. All right, so our goal today is to help small businesses and small business environmental assistance providers or other providers understand their compliance obligation and then know about and utilize free confidential compliance assistance resources, both in the state of Kansas, but also nationally. And so I want to emphasize today that the initiative I'm talking about is an EPA or national initiative. It's not necessarily a state-specific initiative. And so we're going to just kind of go over what the term environmental justice means, EPA's National Enforcement and Compliance Initiative, and then the department at EPA that is actually tasked with executing the compliance initiative. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But first of all, just to give you some definitions related to environmental justice, and this is EPA's definition. It's linked here at the bottom of this slide. But as you can see, environmental justice means to ensure fair treatment, meaningful involvement of all, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, or ability, into federal decisions impacting health and environment. And it aims for equal protection from disproportionate health and environmental risks, including those from climate change, cumulative impacts, or historic injustices. And it's access also to sustainable living environment. So many times we know that certain areas are disproportionately impacted through low income, through public health access, even food access, right? And so these are the communities that through using census data and some other tools, we're able to identify. And these are the communities that we are calling disproportionately impacted, and we're striving to have more environmental justice in. We do whole webinars on environmental justice. So hopefully this makes sense to you. And if you want more information, we can sure provide that. But as we move on, I want to make sure these things do make sense to you and that I'm kind of connecting the dots, because this is language that we use all the time, but may be new to you. And so I can't help but use a few acronyms. So forgive me if I do, but I'll try to make sure that I also define them. So we know that at EPA, there is a group called the EPA's Office of Enforcement and Compliance. We call them OECA. And at EPA, there's 10 regional offices around the country. And each of those offices have inspectors that go into various states to do environmental compliance inspections. They come out of this office called OECA. So even though you may have just seen your state inspector, it is possible that you could see an inspector from EPA as well. And in Kansas, it's our experience that many times it's much easier, no offense against EPA, but it's much easier to work with our state regulator, KDHE, than it is to work with EPA. A lot of times when EPA comes in to do an inspection, if it results in some non-compliance items, it can also result in fees or citations. So the EPA inspectors come out of this office called OECA, and they have been charged with a new National Enforcement and Compliance Initiative. And that initiative requires that they ramp up inspections in environmental justice areas, and that those inspections are specific to industry or companies, even small businesses that maybe have high greenhouse gases. So they're looking to mitigate climate change. And there's certain emissions that have very high potential of greenhouse gases. Maybe your company deals with or has had to deal with in the past PFAS, coal ash, or air toxics. Those could be what we call hazardous air pollutants. So those are the kinds of things that EPA is focusing on, and we're wanting to make sure we're making small businesses aware of this. So how does this initiative affect environmental justice areas? The whole goal of these initiatives really is to reduce emissions and increase compliance, but basically, the underlying goal is to protect public health and to reduce these emissions, especially in these overburdened areas, so that those overburdened areas are not disproportionately impacted by some of these toxic emissions. So how do you, this a little bit of data here on this slide about the number of or percent and number of inspections that were done in environmental justice areas. So you might be asking, how do you identify an environmental justice area? Well, just like with the definition of environmental justice, we have whole webinars that train people on how to use certain tools that are available to identify environmental justice areas. And if for some reason you need some help with this, we have resources at our group and nationally that can help people with these tools. They're publicly available on EPA's website. EJ Screen is just one of two tools that we use. And this is a snapshot of various what we call environmental justice tracks in our region. And we're EPA Region 7. So I'm in Kansas. That Region 7 involves Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri. And then you can see on this right-hand chart here These are the number of tracks that we have in our 4-state region by state that are actually considered disadvantaged tracks and our environmental justice areas where inspections can go maybe focused or concentrated. So how does this initiative then connect to small businesses? EPA has made a commitment to protect communities that are overburdened by pollution. Businesses in environmentally vulnerable areas might face increased federal oversight. Businesses out of compliance may face associated fees or penalty. We put together this flyer, which we have been distributing to our small businesses, making them aware of this compliance initiative. Exactly how EPA is doing this in each region may be a little bit different, but what we know in Region 7 is they actually have, certainly they've got a list of the different emissions that various companies, so it may be a very large company, has certain emissions. And EPA has a air monitoring van that they go out to these areas and literally monitor the air. Now, a lot of times I may have a large, let's say in Wichita, Kansas, I may have a very large aerospace manufacturer, but there's several what we call job shops or subcontractors. Many of them have, 50, 60, 30 employees. So small businesses, less than 100 employees often, working in these job shops that may also have emissions, and they may also be triggered for inspection when EPA is in the area. They may be in the area monitoring for a large business, but pick up on some of the small ones and end up doing surprise inspections. So with that said, what kind of help is available? Because one of our goals, our main goal of this training is to help you as a small business identify ways that you can get assistance with environmental compliance challenges and provide you with resources so you're prepared if you were inspected. We do this with free confidential assistance, but we also have certain other programs we're connected with that are brand new under this initiative that may be able to provide you with some grant funding or supplemental funding to help you as a small business relocate or expand your operations. So these are just 3 that we're going to talk about in a little more detail. So the first one is the National Small Business Environmental Compliance Center. This is a network of what we call Small Business Environmental Assistance Programs, or SBEPs, and we provide detailed compliance technical assistance to small businesses. We go on site or we answer hotline. We do trainings like this where we are helping small businesses figure out, do I need an air permit? Am I supposed to have a hazardous waste registration? What are my waste codes? Do I need a stormwater permit? And we can assist you with those to figure out, are you in the rule or are you out of the rule? What paperwork do you need to keep on site to prove that you are out of the rule? When questions come up, can you call somebody? Where can you go to get those kinds of resources, or maybe even free training that you're required to have? So these are our technical assistance programs. Many of the states also have ombudsmen and advisory panels, but we work with small business communities. We work with a lot of trade associations, small business development centers, SBA partners like SCORE, certainly US EPA. We work with many pollution prevention programs, and then other state and local agencies. And this is just a little snapshot of some of our impacts, if you will, to our audience. So there's some additional resources available on our small business environmental assistance program. We've got basic information on enforcement, compliance policies, because just so you know, if you were inspected and let's say that it did result in a penalty, it may be several months before you get a letter or an enforcement penalty letter or fine from EPA. You may not hear anything for, 6, 12, sometimes it's gone even longer. And then all of a sudden you get this letter in the mail. And so please know that if that does happen, there are certain avenues you may be able to take to have your fine reduced if you are a small business. So you want to reach out to the people in your state so they can help you with that. They also help you figure out, how do I get in compliance? How do I prove that I am now in compliance? Can I get out of this fine in any way or have it reduced? Under this national SB program, we provide really specific resources for certain industries. These are some of the common industries and common industry practices that we work with, and we've got a lot of resources on them. In Kansas, our organization runs the state small business environmental assistance program. We have a hotline. We have people who can come out and assist you, help you figure out how to navigate the permit system if you're in a permit system, and what kind of other types of regulations you might need to be aware of. We are funded by our regulatory agency, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. I want to make you aware of just a couple other resources that are really brand new. And we're just learning and figuring out how these resources can help small businesses. But the first one is a Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center. There are 13, most of them have been identified. In Region 7, we have one right here at Wichita State University. We partner with them to help get the word out, but they provide several different services. And their name is Heartland Environmental Justice, or heartlandej.org is their website. But they're going to help people with grant development that includes communities, individuals, and small businesses if they're in an environmental justice area, education and resource, technical expertise, networking, all kinds of different types of projects that will be going on, and outreach that will be going on for at least the next 5 years. Also specific to environmental justice is another program that has just recently been expanded nationally. It happens to be run through K-State, a program called Technical Assistance to Brownfields. One example of how this resource could be helpful to you is, let's say you are going to open a second location, or you're going to relocate in a blighted area or in an area where it needs some redevelopment. Funding from these programs could be used to pay for a phase 1 site assessment. So with that, I really hope that you've learned about all these different resources here that are here to help you be prepared in case you were inspected or you're wanting to take advantage of some of these programs. So Olivia, could you launch the last poll, please?
Absolutely. Launching that now.
So this is our closing poll. And of course, I need to know if you learned anything today. We're hoping to have increased your learning some. So if you could fill that out, that would be great.
And while you're doing that, this would be the time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, or we are in a meeting format, so I'm sure you could unmute and just ask yourself.
And I see that Mary has put several resources in the chat. One of which is this Small Business Environmental Assistance national website. And if I am able to get it to load, I just want to show you a couple of resources here. This is the page where you go right to your state, and let's say you're in New Mexico. This will take you to exactly who the contact is in New Mexico. So it's broken down by your regions. You can find your individual state assistance program right by clicking on the state that you are in. On our homepage, we have all kinds of resources that are listed, environmental compliance, but under the small business tab, you can see we've got some specific resources as well. And this would be our resource on environmental justice. Are there any other questions or anything more that you want to share, Mary?
I don't think so. If anyone is looking for a specific resource, I'm happy to share it.
Okay, well, with that, I want to thank Olivia very, very much for hosting today, and Mary for helping with this. I hope people have gained some valuable insights.
Yes, thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Mary, for all your help. Just a reminder, a copy of the recording will be sent out, and then I snagged all those links as well, and I will send those in the follow-up email. And thank you guys so much for spending your afternoon with us, and take care.